The problem with as well in the industry, loudest is often more respected than the most knowledgeable. Yeah. So if you've got a platform and you shout loud, even if it's misinformation, 50% of that audience is going to believe you. People want to do these different diets like keto and carnivore and detoxes and slimming pills and there's a million different supplements and ways to do it. But guess what they all do? They all obey one simple law.
Hi Gav, welcome to the show today. Let's kick off just by, I guess, learning or understanding what is it that you currently do?
Well, thanks for the invite on the show. Really appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. Hopefully your listeners or watchers will gain something from this, hopefully. What do I do? Okay. Primarily weight loss coach for men, I guess, between the age of 40 to 60 that have probably spent the last decade or two neglecting their health and focusing on building their business, their career, and making money. And maybe they get to the realization, they get to the mid 40s or even, early 50s and think, shit, they become acutely aware of their mortality and realize that they're probably not living the standards of their life that they would like to have got to. They put all their time and effort into making money, and they realize that the kids are growing up, and shit, if they want to be around for the grandkids, they're going to have to take action. So that's my niche. Is what I really focus on.
Yeah, and I guess but within that niche, it's so true. And I guess there's that double thing that actually when you hit your 40s, I'm in my 40s now, actually weight loss and exercise and things like that, it's so much harder. Like even just down to recovery, if you go to the gym, I remember when I was early 20s, you could just go and do anything and you didn't get injured. You could do it all again the following day. And actually you could eat a kebab on a Friday night and it would make no difference, it seemed. Suddenly you hit 40 and things are different.
100%. I just hit 50. I'm 51 now. And officially, I'm on the decline in a way. There's no two ways about it. I mean, if we all want to get to 85 and beyond, the next 35 years are going to be absolutely paramount. And, for some of the guys, they often think it's too late to turn things around. That's the problem as well. And the thing with weight loss, it's a very emotional subject for many. And many people have often tried many things before and failed. What that really means is they tried something that was never going to work. There was no sort of science and knowledge behind it, and they've given it a go. And then often they say, it's my metabolism, or it's my underactive thyroid, or it's my big bones, or my genetics. And it's a bullshit story that they've told themselves. And because there's so much confusion in the industry at the moment, like even people in my industry don't really understand how weight loss works. So when you've got people, you can go on TikTok, Instagram, there's millions of people spouting out a completely different message. Who do they believe? So when I have a conversation with someone that potentially, most of my guys are probably around 16, 17, 18 stone. And they maybe should be 12, 13, 14 stone. So they've got, and for the American listeners or watchers, they're about 270, 280 pounds, and they probably should be closer to 200, maybe below 200. And they've been there a decade or two. So they've got someone, the hardest part of my job is actually convincing themselves that the process works. So the process has to work. Two, they've got to trust themselves to not quit. And three, they've got to trust me. Because there's so many people out there spouting bullshit. There's people with huge audiences. We're talking millions of audiences that are just feeding the unsuspecting individual with absolute bullshit. And it's a really tricky industry at the moment. It's social media has made it far worse because before, to about nutrition, you had to go to a library and get a book. But now anyone with half a mind can get on the internet and spout a load of crap. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people believing them. So there's a lot of people being led down the garden path, spending money on things that will never work. So the hardest part of my job is wading through all that bullshit and trying to get someone that's 50, that has maybe lost confidence, lost their self-esteem, thinks it's not going to work anyway, get them to trust me, come into the program. And look, we get fantastic results. We really do.
Yeah. And you said there about that sort of misinformation. And I guess a lot of it now is that quick win. you know, you see this, so you do this, and then suddenly you'll lose all this weight. And actually, I mean, what you were saying there is, I've got to stick with the process. Do you think that people just want that quick answer, and therefore that's why some of that bullshit you're saying is quite attractive?
It's all attractive, isn't it? Everyone wants to, add an inch to your arms in 6 weeks and a six pack in, 6 easy moves. And the reality is, everyone's looking for the golden ticket, the silver bullet, the magical silver bullet. And the fact is, fat loss, real fat loss and weight loss and sustained weight loss is so simple, but it's also very boring and monotonous. It's doing a couple of simple things, rinse and repeat for 3 to 6 to 9, even for 12 months for a lot of the guys. And that's what people can't get their head around. They think, well, and there's also an issue with an all or nothing approach. A lot of people think that weight loss means they need to be at the gym 5 days a week and then prepping their food in Tupperware. So they think they need to be completely perfect to make, and if they deviate from that, they're not going to get results. So no wonder people are scared and think, because if you're not a gym person, or you're not, you don't exercise regularly, when you see someone, maybe someone like me or someone, that's showing the six pack off and, in shape, and they think I can never be like that because they think they have to be a certain way. But I can tell you right now, the majority of my men in the group, the clients in the group,
Yeah.
that are losing upwards of 30 pounds in a 12-week period are simply controlling what they put in their mouth, increasing their protein, and getting 10,000 steps a day. That, when I tell that to people, they're like, no, well, that can't be it. What's the real secret? I'm saying the secret is there is no secret. The simplicity of doing simple things, but then just doing that for an extended period of time and trusting yourself and trusting the process. That's where fat loss comes into it. And tracking calories is not sexy. It's not sexy. Right. I like to show people that tracking calories is like tracking your finances. What happens if you don't track your finances? You go into debt, or you become bankrupt, or you end up spending on a credit card. So you have to know what's coming in, and we have to know what's going out. And it's exactly the same with calories. And all calorie tracking is, it's not perfect. It's not designed to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's just getting a great idea of what's coming in, controlling what we're doing out, increasing what we're doing out, and we can plot that very quickly. And if we do this right, you'll see results in the first 5 to 7 days. Really will. It's that quick.
Yeah. And I guess, you said about the 10,000 steps and tracking sort of, calories out and the exercise you're doing. There's lots of stuff around there that makes that much easier now. My watch and will tell me how many steps I've done each day. So we can track all of that part quite simply. But I guess it's the calories coming in. And that can be a really key one for people to understand what there is, because again, there's almost misinformation about lots of food, isn't there? Just because it says it's high protein, actually it might be have some other bad things with it, or whatever. So it's understanding food, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. The fat loss comes down to calories, but also understanding the value of food. And most people don't really understand that. And there's an example I like to use when I have the very first conversation with someone. My process is obviously maybe they'll contact me or I'll contact them. They'll see a piece of content, typically on LinkedIn, which tends to be my main platform. They'll contact, I'm interested in, learning about the coaching. We have a 15-minute call, and I explain to them how calories work and how we need to control what we intake and control what we burn, and we can plot that and start to make things work. And there's an analogy that I like to use, and I said, imagine if I said, I want you to save 10,000 pounds as quickly as you can, okay? Because everyone understands that. But I'm not going to tell you how much you've got coming into your account or when, or how much your bills are going to cost, or when they're going to leave your account. How quickly could you save 10 grand? And they're like, well, it would be impossible. It would literally be impossible. And it's exactly the same. And I say to them, do you have any idea how many calories are in, say, 1 gram of protein, carbs, or fat? And to this day, I've asked that question to probably over 700 people in the last 6 years. And only one person has known the answer. So it's not a trick question. It's just to show that they don't understand the value. And I liken it to, I've got a 7-year-old son. And last week, when I speak to them, it was about a year ago, he mentioned this. I gave him £1 to put in his piggy bank. And he said, oh, Dad, we can save up for that Lamborghini now. And I said, well, we're going to need about 300,000 of them. But technically we could save up for it. So he knows that a pound coin is money, and he knows that he can exchange something for that money, but he's got no real clue of the value of that in the market, right? So when I say to someone, do you know how many calories in a gram of protein? Everyone says, I've got no idea.
No.
I said, well, we know. Do you know how much? Do you know the answer?
I don't. No, I don't.
And again, no judgment, just an observation. But we know that the currency of weight loss is calories. So if you don't know how much the calories are worth, how the hell can you track this? Do you see what I mean? So it's the basics that people are missing. Because if I sent you £100 into your account right now, you know exactly how much £100 is worth. You know what you can go and buy. You know you could pay a bill. You know it's not 101, it's not 99, it's £100. Okay?
Yeah.
But you could say, well, if you translate it into dollars, it's going to be a slightly different value. But you know what £100 is. People don't know how much they're eating. They don't know what protein does in the body. They don't know what carbohydrates do. They're told that carbohydrates make you fat. They don't. They're told that too much protein can cause issues. It doesn't. There's so much misinformation about the simple basics. So my coaching teaches people how to understand calories, how to track them, but more importantly, the mindset behind calories, which is the triggers. Why do we eat? And this is the problem with weight loss. If you think about whenever you're happy, sad, bored, tired, emotional, pissed off, and every other emotion in between, food and drink comes into the equation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Let's go and drink. Let's go and eat. Let's do everything, So I'm tired. It's 10 p.m. Let's go and see what's in the fridge. So food is the only drug-like substance that we have to have as humans. Think about that. Food is addictive as all drugs, but we don't have to have it. Like cocaine, heroin, alcohol, tobacco. People love them and use and abuse them, but they don't need them to function in life. But food, we have to have a certain amount to live, but not too much to get fat. Plus, you've got the whole social, psychological, emotional piece around food. Can you see why it's really people struggle?
Yeah.
And on top of all that, they don't even know what food means. They don't know the value of food. You look at a plate of food, they've got no idea how many calories are in that food. So we teach the tracking, we teach the mindset piece, and once we get that within the first week, you'll ask, if you ever get a chance to speak to my clients, in fact, all of them say, when I do a testimonial at the end of their 12 weeks, I said, what was the most sort of, enlightening part of the coaching? What worked well? And they all say, without fail, literally the simplicity of it and just the basic understanding of nutrition. And once they understand that, they've got a system that will last them for the rest of their life.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned myths there. One of the ones you said was that carbs make you fat. No, they don't. What are some of the biggest myths that we get? Because there is, I mean, carbs is one, isn't it? I remember
it's one, and still people think that carbohydrates and sugar make us fat. Now, here's the problem: is sugar. Let's look at sugar itself. Sugar itself isn't addictive. Foods that contain sugar can be. So you think about this. Think about your favorite food that contains sugar. It's not just table sugar, is it?
No.
Like if you like a piece of cake, it's sugar, other carbs, it's fat, it's the taste, it's the texture, it's the smell, it's the environment. So it's the whole piece. So the piece of cake could be addictive to someone that's into cake, right? Yeah. And sugar just happens to get the bad rap because it's in foods that we all tend to overeat. Think about it. Like no one overeats a chicken breast. Like no one goes into the fridge and just raids the fridge for 4 chicken breasts. So you just don't, because of the structure of the food. So it's linked with cravings. So high sugar tends to be in the foods that we tend to overeat. And because the calories are so dense, you can, like a pizza. I love a pizza. Do you like a pizza?
Yeah, I do like a pizza.
If you get a full 14-inch pizza, you're looking at 1,500, maybe 2,000 calories.
Yeah, right? And I can destroy that very quickly.
Destroy that, when you even think about it. But you'd probably have to eat 10 chicken breasts, 10 dry chicken breasts to get the same calories. Do you see what I mean? So think about that. Is those individual ingredients, are they addictive, or is it the things we talked about, the smell, the crunch, the taste, the environment? So it's a combination of sugar, fat, and all those things that we talk about. So that's addictive. Now, the only way that we gain fat is by consuming more calories than we burn. Okay, so if you take in more than you burn, you're going to get fat. Now, the opposite is true. If we burn more than we take in, we're going to lose weight. And this is, look, the extreme example I use is look at any POW, okay? Like, not one of them had a thyroid condition or big bones or underactive metabolism, or if you starve people, okay, they're going to lose weight, like only 100% of the time. Like, it doesn't, you can't stay fat if you don't get the calories. Okay, so you only gain weight if you're in a surplus, and those calories can come from anything. If you eat too much protein, as in let's say you need 2,000 calories to not gain weight or not lose weight. Let's say that's what we call, maintenance. If you eat 2,500 and it's all protein, you're still going to get fat.
Yeah.
But similarly, let's say you ate 1,500 calories and it was just from a McDonald's. Bear in mind, there's about 1,480 calories in a Big Mac, large fries, and a Coke. If you only ate that per day, every day for the next 30 days, your health wouldn't be in great shape. Like, it's not going to...
It's not nutritious enough. Yeah.
However, you're going to be in a huge deficit, so you're going to lose weight. Do you see what I mean? So the sources of food. So that's one of the biggest myths, carbs. The second biggest myth, not the second biggest myth, but one of the huge ones at the moment, is the hormones are responsible for making us fat as well. It's not true. Hormones will drive behavior. Think of the ones that... Insulin is the big one. Everyone thinks, well, and this is come off the back of sugar. They think if they take lots of high glycemic food, and that's foods with high amount of sugar in, excess sugar is going to raise you insulin, which it does. It absolutely does. And insulin is actually a fat storage hormone. So it makes sense. If you boost your insulin, you're going to store fat. This will only occur if you've got calories to be put into fat stores. You can't get fat. So, for example, your McDonald's meal is an extreme example, but you're spiking insulin. You're having, those fries, which taste great, the burger, which tastes great. But if there's not enough calories, if you're not burning more, you're not taking enough to actually get fat, how can you get fat? So hormones will drive behavior. So high insulin, if you spike your insulin, it can make you hungry. Now, cortisol, when you're stressed, we release cortisol. That can also make you hungry. But think of the people that undereat when they're stressed. Would you say you overeat if you're stressed, or would you undereat?
Yeah, I'd say I get a sweet tooth when I'm stressed.
Okay, so a lot of people do, but I'll use my wife as an example. When she's stressed, she'll just sometimes go the whole day without eating. So is she going to get fat from undereating? So is it the stress that's making her fat? Is it the hormones that are making her fat? Or does the hormone drive behavior? See the difference? So cortisol's high, it will make some people hungry. They overeat, they get fat because of the behavior, but it wasn't the hormone itself. So insulin doesn't make you fat, cortisol doesn't make you fat. All these different hormones don't make you fat. The only thing that makes you gain weight is an overconsumption of calories, and those calories can come from anything. And it just so happens that carbohydrates and sugar are in the foods that we love to overeat. Like I said, no one overeats 10 chicken breasts. They just don't.
No,
because even if you love chicken, it's you'd push to do it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, completely. And that's really interesting how you're right. When you're stressed, and I do maybe eat, but actually you choose those comfort foods, the ones that are really easily to overeat. When I'm really stressed, I'm not going to go, right, let's boil some broccoli. I'm going to cook some chicken breasts. I'm going to I'm going to whack a pizza in the oven. And
because it tastes good. It makes you feel good. You release a lot of dopamine. So in the moment, you want foods that are comforting, don't you?
Yeah.
What do we all say when the weather's particularly bleak at the moment in the UK, isn't it? It's cold, dark, and January. Like, is anyone having, grilled chicken breasts and light salad at 7, 8 p.m. at night? We want hearty meals, don't we? We all say, it's the time for the red wine to come out. We want things that make us feel good. So we tend to have these more sort of home-cooked meals, typically, not always, when the sun comes out, it starts getting warmer. You get your salads out, the things change because of this. It really is that simple. It really is that simple. And I think that one of the biggest myths as well within the whole industry is how complicated fat loss is. As in, that's the myth itself. It's so simple. It's not easy. And people want to say, they always have a go at me when I say that fat loss is simple. They say, oh, it's easy for you. I'm saying, no, I'm not. I'm not saying it's easy. The actual process is very simple. But the way the industry is set up, it's almost like it's, rocket science. This is not quantum physics. This is really, really simple. If we can control the calories and move a little bit more, okay, we're going to burn body fat. Now, within that statement, there's a whole load of things that are going on. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a job and everyone would have a sick bag.
Yeah. Yeah,
So there's a lot of nuance
exactly
within
that.
that. People get confused and get upset when I break it down, but people want to do these different diets like keto and carnivore and detoxes and slimming pills and like there's a million different supplements and ways to do it. But guess what? They all do. They all obey one simple law, and that's being in a calorie deficit. As in, and I didn't make the law up. It wasn't my law. It was God, the universe, whatever you believe in. He, she, it made it up.
Yeah. And I guess actually you mentioned there all the different diets, and one thing that a lot of people get caught up on are these sort of yo-yo diets and things like that. And you mentioned early on that, almost you don't restrict people as such. It's to do with calories. And when people fail on these sort of really strict diets, actually they almost feel terrible and then think, oh well, I've ruined it today, so I might as well eat that other cake.
Yeah.
And then the following day, oh, I mucked up. All right, look, let's just write the weekend off. I'll start again on Monday. And is that one of the problems with these sort of incredibly strict
Matt,
diets?
I have a module in the coaching program that talks about that phenomenon of I'll start Monday. In fact, when it's one of the first things we literally mention that every single week. I've got about 35 guys in the group at the moment, and I would say that every Monday when we do our group call, that sort of scenario comes up. And the biggest thing that I teach my guys is I'll start Monday, because this is what happens. If typically someone will do a very strict regime, and because they've heard that carbs make them fat. So let's say they believe that. So what do? They cut all the carbs from their diet. And most people, even if they're really bloody minded and driven, they might last 4 or 5 days. You go and I'm not saying that low carbohydrate is a problem, but it's just very hard to sustain for most people, especially when they don't understand why or how. So they often cut the carbs way too low, very, very quickly, go into a huge deficit, which means they're going to burn body fat. But what happens? Someone wafts that slice of pizza in front of their eyes, in front of their nose on a Friday. And because they've been so restricted and they've been thinking about food, they've got no willpower or resolve. So what happens? They just literally go off piste and go ballistic. Yeah. So my philosophy is an 80-20 approach to nutrition, as in there's no foods that we have to eat and there's no foods that we can't eat. So when someone says, look, someone's a 20 stone, a couple of guys are big guys in my group, and they say, oh, do you want me to cut out pizza and all beer and all the stuff that I love? I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, I thought how are we going to lose weight? I said, because the all or nothing approach doesn't work. So what we're going to do, we're going to focus on whole foods, good proteins, quality fats, low glycemic carbohydrates for 80% of the time, which means the vast majority of your diet is going to be the typical health foods that everyone associates with health.
Yeah.
But that allows 20%, dare I say it, to eat whatever the fuck you want. And that creates long-term sustainability, long-term success, because then they go, well, hang on, are you telling me I don't actually need to cut anything out as long as I can control and moderate the calories? And the answer is yes. And they literally, you can see the light bulb going off in these guys' head. They're like, oh my God, you're the first person that's ever said. If I showed you what went on our WhatsApp group, there's guys texting their dinner that they had last night. But then the breakfast and lunch was controlled, high protein. They'd gone out for dinner, and they're saying this is the first time in my life that I've been able to go out, for a family occasion like a birthday or celebration, and relax, still have the bread, still have a couple of beers, not have 10 beers, but have a couple of beers, a bit of a dessert. And on Monday morning, I'm still losing 2 or 3 pounds. They're like, what is this witchcraft that you're teaching us? It's not, because what we're doing is balancing. We also want to look at the calories on a daily basis, but also a weekly budget. Let's say your calories are 2,000 for the day. That gives you a 14 grand budget for the week, right?
Yeah.
And again, I say to them, if that was money, if I said, Matt, you've got 14 grand to spend between now and next Wednesday, would it matter what you spent? You could spend 3 grand on Thursday, 1.8 on Tuesday. It doesn't matter what you do day to day, as long as you come in or under budget at the end of the week. And they're like, this is revolutionary. I get them to hit their protein goal, control their calories over the week, and they're like, I'm still enjoying life, going for dinner, having a bit of cake, eating, having an ice cream with the kids on the weekend, and still losing weight. And that's effectively what we do, and it works only 100% of the time.
Yeah. I guess the question, and this is maybe another myth that you will have heard of, I've certainly seen out there, about the time of day that you eat. sort of don't eat after 6 p.m. or don't eat after 8 p.m. or whatever.
Another myth, yeah.
Yeah. Does it matter? Because it's calories in and calories out.
It really doesn't matter. The body doesn't know whether it's the morning or not. I mean, it will have a circadian rhythm that we all work on, so it knows. Our body changes as we move into night times. What I mean is with food, like I said, it doesn't matter if you spend money in the morning or spend money in the evening. Your bank account is still going to show, a net profit or a net deficit. It doesn't make any difference. The only thing that I would say with eating, if you're eating very late at night, it could affect the quality of your sleep. But in terms of actual metabolism and the net balance at the end of the week, it won't make any difference to fat loss. So look, I tell people to eat whenever they're hungry, whatever suits them. Like, if someone loves to eat breakfast, I say, look, eat breakfast. But if you don't like to eat breakfast, I'm not going to tell them to go and eat breakfast, because we have to find, I always say to people, the best diet that anyone can be on is the one they can stay on the longest.
Yeah.
With the food that they enjoy. So I could give someone a diet and I could give them a schedule, but if that doesn't suit them, if they don't like those foods and the schedule doesn't work, how long are they going to stay on that? And then another great example I use when I'm trying to show people how this works, I said, let's say you've got friends, family, work colleagues over for a barbecue. How many barbecues do we get a year in the UK? Two or three?
Not a huge amount.
Maybe. It's the sun that, we might get out there. Let's say you've got a load of people on, but you're on a set plan where you have to eat this and can't eat that. Everyone else is enjoying the barbecue food. How long are you going to stay on that plan for?
Yeah.
Not long. But imagine if I say to a client that's really struggled with this their whole life, you can eat whatever you want at the barbecue as long as we track the numbers and then we make up for it in the rest of the week. They're like, oh my God, I can actually enjoy my Sunday with the family for the first time ever. So there's so many myths around fitness. We could spend hours, probably an hour on every single myth. The main ones, carbs make people fat, they don't. Hormones make people fat, they don't. They definitely drive behavior, which can cause you to overeat.
Yeah.
But them themselves don't cause anyone to gain body fat.
Yeah. And I guess, you mentioned it there, that actually weight loss or fat loss, it is very simple. That the problem is we don't have the knowledge, and general lifestyle doesn't always make it easy, certainly if we don't have the knowledge, because exactly like you said, stressful day, or we just get a pizza tonight. Stressful. We're gonna have a few beers and get a takeaway, and then just not balancing that out throughout the week.
100%. And I think the environment is definitely hard. Think about the modern supermarket. Every year we get more and more choices. We're bombarded with, we could take this and take a real cynical viewpoint, but if the government really cared about our health, do we go there? Yeah, we do. I don't believe the government need people to be sick and unwell, because it's worth so much money to them. It's worth so much money. Because if they really cared about it, they wouldn't allow the products that are in the supermarket, because people are uneducated, so they don't realize these products are highly calorific, high sugar. Again, it's not a problem, but they just make overeating that much easier.
Yeah.
Kids are bombarded by messages, cereals, chocolate, sweets, blah, blah, blah. And so that mixed with, ill-educated people around nutrition is a recipe for disaster. And you think about all the favorite foods that we like. It's quick, it's easy, it's high sugar, it's high fat, junk food, and it's reasonably cheap, isn't it? So if you've got someone that doesn't know what they're doing, they're tired, they're emotional, they've had a shitty day at work, they just grab something from the supermarket on the way out. So you actually physically, it starts with educating people, but we could take it back to the mass production of food. It's not designed for our health, it's designed for profit.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to unpack in there, or a lot that we could discuss. And you are right. I think it does always start with that education up front. The government will argue, we like to give people free choice. We don't want to control them. And that's fine, as long as people have got a free choice because they're educated in, I know that food is going to do this to me, but I could have this and it would be better for me. Or, just the ways that we shop and what's in it and how many calories. I'm sure there's lots of people who've got no idea how many calories they should have.
They've got no idea. 100%. Like, I'll go into a supermarket and it's just not a daunting place, because I know I can look at food and I know what's in it. But that's because of a little bit of education. The vast majority, and again, I'm not being rude to anyone, it's just true. They don't understand what they're looking at. They don't know that certain things are going to be very high calorie. They don't know how many calories they need in the first place. So I go into the store and I'll buy exactly what I want, which will be lots of lean proteins, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and I'll steer away from the crap that we all enjoy. But don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place for a movie bag of Doritos, and I'm not going to lie. And look, I like a drink every now and then. I don't drink much at home now. I tend to drink more when I'm in restaurants or go out for meals, special occasions. But I'd be a liar to say that, most of my clients enjoy a drink, and it still won't impact their fat loss long term. Health is another different thing. We all know alcohol is not great for our health. I'm not going to sit here and even suggest 5 to 10 drinks is good for our health. It's not. No. The research is showing any more than 2 drinks is detrimental to our health. But we have to offset this against, if someone's sleeping reasonably well, their stress levels are low, they're training in the gym, they're walking, their emotional health is pretty good. Is 2 or 3 drinks, is that going to have a negative effect long term? Possibly not. And that's where where I stand. If someone's drinking to excess and then all the other areas of their life are not in check, then the problems with drink compounds. Make sense?
Yeah, completely.
It's really, I'm a big believer in balance. My whole approach is with balance. And the problem is when there's this all or nothing sort of mentality, that there's no balance, and people think like you're either in this camp or you're living a life to excess all the time. And I don't think you have to be that way. I don't think you have to be perfect, and you certainly don't need to be there. You can sort of swap between the two and get the best of both worlds, get great results with your health and fat loss, and still have a life.
Yeah, because actually when you don't have that balance, that's where it is really easy to fail, because you then start resenting and not enjoying the process that you're on, because you can't have a beer with your friends, although you always have just 1 pint after work on a Friday with all the lads. But actually that's fine, because you've got all the other stuff, and if you miss that out, you start you start to miss out on maybe the social interaction, you start to miss out on that relaxation, you start to miss out on other things, and that compounds into 2 weeks later, actually, you've given it all up.
You resent the whole process. You resent everything. And then you think that, I always say to people in the very, very beginning, we're not going to do anything in the next 90 days that you couldn't see yourself doing for the next 30 years of your life. And that really shocks them. I said, but they said, well, you want to get the best result. Because look, here's the thing. If I told all my guys, no alcohol, no carbohydrates, the gym 5 days a week, and we did a really sort of draconian diet regime and workout, would they get better results? Short term, yes, of course they would. Of course they would. If someone drastically slashes their calories, and they went all out, if they didn't get injured, they'd probably get slightly better results in the first 3 months. But I say to them, is that a regime that you can continue? So not just 12 weeks, can you do it for 12 months and 12 years? And if there's something in this first 12 weeks that you can't see yourself doing every day for 12 years, then we shouldn't be doing it. So I said to them, we can cut out all your booze, okay, but are you never going to drink a pint of beer again? And pretty much everyone says, okay, no, that's not what I want to do. Or we can cut out all your carbohydrates, but do you never, ever want to have any carbohydrates ever again? And they're like, I don't really want to do that as well. So how about I teach you a system that allows you to have a couple of pints on a Friday, an ice cream at the weekend, a little bit of balance, and still get the same fat loss results in a manner that going to allow you to have a life, because it's just not practical. It's just not practical. And guess what? Everyone puts their hand up when I give them the plan B. I want to be really, really strict and not enjoying life and get a result, or we can have a bit of balance and get the same result. And it really is down to that. It's just showing them simple changes that anyone can do, but doing it consistently for a period of, as I said, 90 days or 6 months, a year for some of the bigger guys. And it really is that simple. It's not always easy. The hard thing comes into the messages from the industry, the food that we're surrounded by, the lack of education, and the personal piece, with the belief that they probably wouldn't be able to do it anyway. They've lost confidence. They lack self-esteem. Why try? Because I've always failed. It's a very, very precarious situation, losing weight, the industry is based on that. How many people are getting fat? The world's getting fatter, isn't it?
Yeah.
The world is getting fatter.
And in fact, if we weren't, then you wouldn't have a job. So actually there is that simple argument. You're right about actually
From a
not
commercial
educating people.
perspective, my
Yeah,
commercial perspective, there's a never ending, literally, it's one of the businesses that will never end. And
no,
unfortunately, weirdly enough, as we become more educated, we know more about nutrition and exercise than we've ever done, but we're actually less educated in the application of it because of the foods that are available and the messages in the industry of just confusing people. Like, people don't know, should I be on keto? Should I be doing carnivore? Should I cut out carbs? Should I be high protein, low protein? Look, again, it's a very simple sort of analogy I like to use. If you had a fat, have you ever got a dog, Matt? Have you got a
I
dog?
haven't. No, but I do know people with dogs.
If you had a dog, if you
Yeah,
had, if your dog got fat, what would you do?
yeah. So probably restrict what they're eating and give them a bit more exercise.
That is it, my friend. That is it. Every animal on the planet works the same. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, or fortunately, we are one of those animals or mammals. It really is that simple. But we've confused it. Like, you restrict the food a little bit and take him for an extra walk. And
yeah,
that's all we have to do. But you've got, the thing is, with it in a dog's life, he doesn't have all those, the psychological issues. He hasn't got poor self-esteem. He
no,
hasn't tried many things before. He hasn't got an unlimited abundance in a supermarket. So there is 1,000 other things that we have to deal with as humans that make it difficult. But the
yeah,
actual process is really, really simple. And what I pride myself on doing in my coaching is simplifying a very complicated system, all this shit that's going on, and getting them to focus on eating a slightly fewer calories and moving a little bit more. And it works wonders. It really does.
yeah. Because you're right, actually, that the environment we live in actually makes this hard. And as humans, we're there to seek out that sort of dopamine hit, and we know that
Oh,
sugary foods and all of this, gives us that dopamine. And in fact, we're probably surrounded by dopamine hits from social media to food to, and that's probably what's making our lifestyles, challenging. So we have to be
100%.
quite strict on it, and then yeah, having some education to start with.
100%. And that's all. That's all we focus on. You ask every one of my guys. I say we're going to literally ignore 97% of what's going on in the industry, and focus on a couple of key habits.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe the simplicity of what we're doing." Um, yeah, it really is that simple, and it works. It works a charm. Yeah.
So, I mean, just to finish off today, then, what's your big hope, I guess, for the next couple of years with regard to, like you said, you said about the supermarkets being filled with food that wasn't there, the lack of education. If you were to make an impact on the world, what would it be to help people? Obviously, you're doing it to small groups, but I'm talking about a big world
Yeah.
thing. What would you love to be your big impact?
I mean, I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure they're not teaching real nutrition in schools. They're just
No,
not, are they?
no,
I don't know. I mean, it's been a long time since I was at school. I didn't learn anything of this. This was all
no.
self-educated until I went to university. And even back then in the 90s, the only source of nutrition information was from bodybuilders. The Muscle
Yeah,
Mag and Flex magazine back then. I mean, how old are you, Matt?
yeah. I'm 45.
All right,
So
so yeah, we're
yeah,
kind of in the same.
yeah.
It's from you in the first year. So back in the the mid to late 90s, all we had was a magazine that came out once a week,
Yeah.
and the bodybuilders, a lot of it was bro science, a lot of it we know is not the truth, but a lot of it was true. So,
Yeah.
but now there's so much information, but they're not teaching it in schools. Like, I don't believe kids have heard of. They don't understand. If you ask the vast majority of 18-year-olds how many calories are in a gram of protein, fats, or carb, which is our currency, they wouldn't know the answer. Would most of them have heard the word calorie deficit or calorie surplus by the time they're 18? Probably not. So they've been bombarded with so much nutritional information. And when you've got, like I said, huge people on social media with 2, 3, 5 million followers, the problem with as well in the industry, loudest is often more respected than the most knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So if you've got a platform and you shout loud, even if it's misinformation, by default, maybe 20, 30, even 50% of that audience is going to believe you because this guy's got 5 million followers on Instagram. He must be right.
Yeah.
That social media clout is powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, they're tying two and two things together, even if they're not connected. So it could be, oh look, that guy's got good abs, and he says I need to do this. Well,
100%.
they're not necessarily
They're not
connected.
necessary. Now, often they will. A guy with good abs, often, I mean, someone who's got a real six-pack abs, invariably, they've got great genetics.
Yeah,
They know a certain amount to get that, because you're not just born with that.
right.
Potentially, he could be using some type of performance enhancing drugs, and he's probably 22 years old. Doesn't mean he's not knowledgeable,
No.
but you have to question: is what he's saying, is this going to be applicable? You've got a guy in their 40s or 50s with 4 or 5 million. With hundreds of thousands of people liking their posts. Someone comes on there, even if they're talking utter garbage. I'm not going to name any names. I talk about in my videos all the time. People can look at that and think, this guy knows what he's talking about. But some of the biggest creators, and they're on LinkedIn, they're on Instagram, they're everywhere, that we see them and think, that is an absolute lie. That's just not the truth. Look, we've got governments around the world just talking utter garbage, haven't they? Leading people down the garden path. So sometimes the loudest is seen as the most respected and the most knowledgeable. So I think it's a tough one. Back to your original question, you said, what would we do? We need a bit of education. Of course, we've got to start with education, and it starts at home, I believe. So the parents need to be educated. If you think about this, and I don't know the actual stats on this, but I know this to be true to a certain extent. If you've got a couple of parents that struggle with their weight, the chances that the children are going to be overweight are very high.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, no judgment, just an observation. It's true. We see it. We see it. You often see two, overweight mother and father. Often the kids are overweight, and it's not because they don't really know what to eat. They see their parents overweight, so they think it's acceptable. They think, well, dad's doing it, he's eating, he's drinking, and again, no judgment, just an observation. But often, if you've got a couple of parents that are in shape, more than often, the kids tend to eat slightly better, they exercise more. So I think it starts at home, but I think the education needs to be looked at in schools as well. But then we need to take it to the industry as well, because let's say someone hasn't got the education. Do we really care about people's health? Do the government really care? And the truth is, we don't. If you don't look after yourself, no one is going to take care of your health. No one's going to take care of your nutrition. Just walk into the supermarkets and look at all the stuff that's on the outside, all the cheap, sugary, high fat, stuff that is addictive. Look, companies spend millions every year perfecting the smell and the crunch and the taste of Doritos and Pringles. Someone's job is to make those foods as addictive as possible.
Yeah.
What's Pringles saying? Once you pop, you can't stop.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. Yeah.
You have a couple of those Pringles. It takes a brave person. Brave is not the word, but a clever person to take 2 or 3 Pringles and not have a chunk that much. It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really hard.
I can't do it. If I don't open it, I'm fine. If I open the box, it's game over. I won't see the whole thing, but I'm going to have a big wedge of Pringles.
Yeah.
And the smell, the taste. So if they really cared, you could say, well, the industry needs to change. But then there's a flip side of that as well. You could say, well, isn't it up to the industry to make as much money as they want? Isn't it up to the individual to educate themselves? Because I don't get caught out. I know if I buy that stuff, I eat it, so I just don't buy it.
Yeah.
But because I know about nutrition, the vast majority don't. So it's a bit of the chicken and the egg, isn't it? Do we focus on the industry? Is it their fault? I don't believe it's entirely their fault. No. Is it the individuals? Possibly, but the industry is not helping the individual that isn't educated. Make sense? So it's so the answer to the question is, it's a bloody long question and answer, isn't it? It's not quick. We're not going to solve it on a podcast today.
No.
It's a tricky one.
But I guess education, you said there, is it the industry's responsibility or the food industry? Well, actually they're maybe going in to meet consumer demand. And the reason there's that consumer demand is the lack of education. And, but then equally when we eat them, we get that real buzz. So we go back and buy some more. And it is a tricky one. But I guess, what I would say is, keep putting your videos out, keep educating people, and keep running your groups, because you will be almost saving people's lives from the fact of, we know that health issues come about due to excess weight.
100%. When there's nothing better. I actually love what I do. I really, really get a lot of pleasure from what I do. Obviously, it pays. Of course, I wouldn't do it for free. Who would like that aside? But when I genuinely, I said there's 35 guys in the group at the moment. There's 20 in what I call phase one, which is the first sort of 90 days, 12 weeks, and there's 25 actually. There's 10 in what I call phase two, and they do another 6 months after that. And they're texting every day. And when someone loses 40 or 50 pounds, which is like 3-4 stone, and they text me personally and in the group, Gav, you've changed my life. I've got energy to play with my kids. I'm making more money at work. I literally get out of bed. I've stopped drinking. All these different things. And they do actually say, and it sounds a bit cliched and a bit cheesy, but when they say, Gav, you've actually changed my life, it's a fantastic feeling. And I love it. But also, I know that I've added a decade to their life.
Yeah.
And that is not to be taken lightly, because there's not one person, if you put, as long as all things considered, do you want to live to 75 or 85? And most people say, well, as long as I get to 85 in good health. And there's the two things we want to focus on. There's longevity, like lifespan, but there's also health span. And we want those last 10 years to be the best quality they can be. We don't want to be just sitting in a chair, just ultimately waiting for something to happen, right? Which a lot of people are. So yeah, we want to lose this weight, but when I know that it's literally going to affect their life in the next 20 to 30 years, and that's powerful. And look, a lot of the guys get very emotional. They get quite upset when the fact they know they've made these changes. And when I can see in someone that I know they're never going to go back to how they were before, that's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's installing that confidence, that knowledge that actually people keep this up, because it is about being able to extend your life. I go to the gym fairly regularly, and I've realized in the last few years there is that slight switch, as in, yes, I still go because I enjoy it. It keeps me looking good and things like that. But equally, it's because I want to be able to play around on the floor when I'm 70 with the grandkids. It's 100%. Not just about my biceps looking bigger in a t-shirt, which it was when I was 21.
You hit the nail on the head. For me, in my 20s and 30s, the six-pack was the priority. I didn't breathe the six-pack, and I've had one. And don't get me wrong, for the people that have never had one, it's not as much fun as it cracked up to be. It's a very restrictive life to ultimately get a look that no one gives a shit about apart from you. That's the thing. When you get a six-pack, people go, oh my God, he's got a six-pack. And even when I've been at my leanest, the missus has gone, oh, I prefer you when I've got a bit more fat on you. You're almost too lean. I'm like, I've just killed myself for the last 6 months to look like this. No one gives a fuck about your six-pack apart from you. When you get to 45, you realise, hang on, I've got another 30 years, maybe 40 if I'm really careful and lucky, because it's all a bit of luck, isn't it?
Yeah.
I need to really start looking at my health, because I've got a 3-year-old daughter as well, 51. I'm thinking in 30 years, if I want to see her get married or potentially have kids, I'm going to be in my mid-80s, which means, and this is honestly the truth, when I got to sort of 48, 49, 50, every workout I do now, I mean, the six-pack is always nice, but every workout I'm thinking, what is this doing for my future self? Is this going to help me in the next 20 to 30 years? And I think I live and breathe that now. So every time I don't want to go to the gym today, I'm thinking, no, get to the gym, because you're putting money in the bank when you're going to withdraw when you're 80. That's what I did. When I was in my 20s, it was like, get to the gym because I want to look ripped. And now it's not. That's a nice. And I don't have a proper six-pack. I'm not fat, but I don't have a six-pack in the moment. So your priorities definitely do change. And for the better, I think.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Gav, it's been brilliant to chat to you today. Thank you so much for your insights. I know people who have, got something from that and been able to take some of that away.
So.
And, to be able to simplify.
When you're talking on a podcast with a coffee, mate, it's a dangerous combination.
No, it's been brilliant. So thank you. Obviously, I'll put links below to your socials and your website, and that do go and follow Gav and hear more about what he's got to say. But yeah, once again, thank you for joining me, and enjoy the rest of your day.
No, thanks for having me on, mate. Been a pleasure, and hopefully we can do it again another time.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Balanced Ambition podcast. I genuinely hope the stories inspire you as much as they inspire me. If you found value in today's conversation, please share it with a friend. And remember, by subscribing, you won't miss an episode, and it would truly mean the world to me. Stay balanced, and I'll see you next time.